So this meeting is now being recorded. Okay. And people are still coming in, which is fantastic. All right. So what I'll do is share my screen. And so hopefully you are looking at my screen right now. The homepage, which doesn't really have a lot except my Spirit of Reform title and the graphic I hear for service learning. I feel like, oh, I have 8 participants. So if you're here and I haven't said hello to you, this is your hello. I feel like I talk a lot about service learning, and I do. It's a very important project to me, and I think to this class. I would like to mention that if you want me to give you a $5 Starbucks gift card, please turn in your informed consent to Dr. Chuang. I mean, why not get $5 from me, right? For a coffee, or I guess you guys don't drink coffee. Maybe $5 wouldn't cover what you guys drink at Starbucks. But anyway, you know, it'll go towards your latte or whatever it is you drink. So that's all you have to do to get a $5 Starbucks gift card from me is turn in your, hi Natasha, turn in your informed consent to Dr. Truong. Just email it back to her. Okay, I think a lot of people are signing electronically, which that's fine. And I will give you a $5 Starbucks gift card in exchange for that. And then after the semester's over, I want to look at your work. No names or anything will be involved. It'll just be the responses that you give. So, and this is all tied back to the Service Learning Project. And this week is, we're going to be looking at the reformers. As our country grows and we progress on, we're about up to 1825. 1825 to 1845, I think, is the time period. I'm going to go ahead and click on content. And then we're still in the Young Republic and click on the Spirit of Reform. Yeah, 1825 to 1845. So essentially what's happening during this time is we have a country, the United States, newly formed country. We have our government in place. We have a guiding document or law of the land, our constitution, and we are just working as a young country. And around 1825, during this time period, it is known as the reformers, mainly because, excuse me, you have people who are mainly living on the East Coast, right? That's where our bigger cities have started to form. And hello, whoever just came in. And the cities are starting to get overcrowded. And when I say the cities, we're certainly talking about New York. Philadelphia is another one. Not so much in the South, although smaller cities like Charleston and maybe even Savannah to an extent are also feeling growing pains. These cities are starting to have a lot of people. And so then when a lot of people come, a lot of people problems. How do we manage enough space for these people? What will the sanitation be like? And what do we do with people who commit crimes? Okay, and so our reformers during this time look at our cities, look at society and say, wow, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed as far as how do we educate each other? What do we do with our prisoners, people who are not able to be free in society? What are we going to do about slavery? There's a growing abolitionist movement that's in the North, starts in the North, where the Northerners look at the slave trade and people who are enslaved and say, that's not something that is suitable for a functioning society. And so you have that, the beginning of that movement starting. So that's what your reformers are looking at. Now, a lot of people have chosen the reformers group for their service learning project. And as I explained, if you chose that group, then you're essentially doing the same thing. You're looking at society today and saying, what needs to be improved? And it can be something like, you working at a homeless shelter, or, I mean, it could even be, walking dogs at paws, you addressing the stray pet dog, cat situation, and helping out in that way, because essentially that's what our reformers did. On a much larger scale, I mean, we have some famous people, and you have famous people today who do things to improve society, but back in the early 19th century, you had groups of people, Harriet Beecher Stowe, hi Melissa, is one of them. She writes a book, right, that addresses abolition and the horrors of slavery. People that she is related to, also by extension, look at different needs in society. Horace Mann is another individual. He is an advocate for education, because you have to understand, during this time, public school wasn't like what it is today. There was no public school for a lot of people. Most people, there was no public school. If you were middle class or lower middle class or poor, you probably didn't receive any schooling at all. Schooling was a luxury, and wealthier people who could afford personal tutors hired people to tutor their children, and those children had high expectations. They would usually go to some kind of college or university and become some type of professional, lawyers and doctors and whatnot, business people and such. So it was people like Horace Mann that said, well, no, wait a minute. Everybody needs to be educated. That's just, something smart for a, functioning society. And so that's when you start to see what they call land grants being offered to through the states to establish public schools. University of Georgia is one of them, if I'm not mistaken. It was 1834 that a land grant was established, that university. It's one of the earlier ones, but it's not the first one. I want to say a college in North Carolina was the very first state public college. And so, but you have to understand that didn't mean, okay, anybody, can get in. It still was very difficult for people to be able to attend a higher education institution. So as we're looking at the reformers today, this week, and oh, by the way, I know I just posted this today. Please make a note that this is not due until October 27th. And it's going to be just like last week. Whatever you have, you'll just have to double up on it. Whatever's due next week will also be due on October 27th. But I just got this out to you guys today. So there's 2 chapter readings. I'm going to go into that OpenStax and read chapter 10 and 13. OpenStax doesn't really flow in a nice chronological order with the way I'm delivering this history. So we're kind of jumping around a little bit on the chapter numbers, but we're going to cover them all, okay? So please get these two read, and then there's a worksheet down here. A worksheet that pretty much covers this whole entire unit. So what we're looking at this week, we're also looking at President Jackson, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is a very interesting historical figure. Hello, whoever came in. Very interesting indeed. No friend to the, hi Sarah, no friend to the Native Americans for sure. I wonder if Jackson would be able to succeed as a politician today. Andrew Jackson, tried to, in some respects, succeeded in undoing a lot of the progressive movements in the late 18th century, early 19th century that previous administrations had put in place. And so I mentioned Native Americans. It was under Jackson that the Native Americans in Georgia were forced to leave, and it was a forcible migration to what we now know as the state of Oklahoma. You probably learned about it in middle school, the Trail of Tears. And then there's that famous painting, if you'll remember, of the Native Americans being escorted by federal troops on their walk, and it is a walk from the Georgia-Alabama area to what we now today know as Oklahoma or Indian Territory. So I think during this time, similar to today, people are looking at this time period in history and they're saying to themselves, hey, our society needs improving. And I think we can also say that for us today. Look around and see where we see improvements. Also, this really cool video right here, this is from PBS. I mentioned the abolitionist movement. This lady here, her name escapes me right now, but she's got a beautiful voice for one. She's going to sing a little bit. It's a very short video. It's only like 3 minutes, so watch it, okay, because it's good. But what she's talking about is the coded spirituals. I mentioned the abolitionist movement that started in the North, and you probably also remember from school part of the abolitionist movement was the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, all of that. And so one of the ways or one of the obstacles to getting something like an abolitionist movement or getting a slave from being moving him or her from one area in the South to the North, one challenge was communication, because slaves were watched very carefully, and they didn't have a whole lot of time to organize or talk to one another about what they were doing or planning. And so it was through these coded spirituals that slaves were able to communicate with each other about what their plans were and communicate with people who may be in a position to help them move along. And if you think about it, if you just look at a map of the United States, maybe this one will show the lakes and the rivers. Well, I don't know if this, yeah. Oh, this is a good map. So most of your slaves, a lot of your slaves are right down in here, right? Here's your southern states. So if you're down here, let's just say you're down here, there were a lot right in here. This is huge agriculture right here in Georgia. Say you're down here and you're a slave. Well, here's where you need to go. Yeah, there's the Ohio River right there. Here's where you need to go to get free, to be free. So that's a long way. There's a lot that can happen. And that's part of how Harriet Tubman, that Underground Railroad that we talk about. But also, look what you have right here. This is the Appalachian Mountain Chain. So it's not like it's flat land getting all the way to Ohio or just above Kentucky. It's about right here. It's the Ohio River that goes like this. Yeah. So another way, if you lived over here on the coast, you did have a chance of where you could maybe go through here, get out on the ocean, but still risky. There were a lot of escaped slaves right here on the Kentucky Ohio border, obviously because they didn't have far to go, right? But it was very difficult. So if you're going to be on the move, you're going to need some form of communication. And that's what this lady talks about. She talks about these coded spirituals, these songs that held different meanings for what people could do and would do, what was safe and what was not safe. It's a good video. It's 3 minutes. Take a look at it, okay? And then, like I said, you have the Spirit of Reform worksheet due October 27th. It's not due this Sunday. It's due the following Sunday. I've gotten this stuff out late to you guys. The other thing that I hope you're working on is your service learning project. I am starting to put in the assignments. Okay, so here's what happens, and I want to explain this because there's still some people that aren't sure what they're supposed to do. So you select an organization based on the group that you've joined that you want to perform 5 hours of community service. While you're performing your community service, you're going to fill out the participant diary, because the participant diary is simply it's just a document for you to document what you do. Okay, that's all it is. If I can see, some people have already turned in their participant document. Let me go here. Yeah. So the participant document is just some simple questions here. Name, title of the service learning experience, when did you complete it, date or dates. Just a document. I did this, I met this person, met that person. Asking you to document your whole experience. So you fill this out while you're doing it. Also, while you are doing your service learning experience, you should be thinking about the auto photography assignment presentation that you're going to have to complete. Okay, now this is where you will create a PowerPoint or some other kind of presentation. I want you to take pictures of you performing your service, and you will answer some discussion questions. This is just going to help you reflect on your experience and allow you to think about what you did and what maybe you learned from it. And you can use those same discussion questions as guiding questions for your presentation, or even titles of your slides. That's fine. And add that with the pictures. So by the end of the term, you will have completed the service learning experience, the discussion questions, and the auto photography presentation. All right, I have talked. I have not allowed you to ask questions, so I'm going to stop talking. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. I got a new message. How long is the participant diary? That's a really good question, Tucker. The participant diary is as much as you want to put in there, and I want you to put everything. I want you to put as much as you can in there. Yeah, so it's 5 hours worth of stuff. If I pull this back up, let me show this to you. It says the word count should be 150 to 200 words. Okay. Things like the pre-planning, explain how you pre-planned. You can read these. I mean, you can go on, they're out there, so you can go ahead and pull this up and read this, okay? What was the most difficult or satisfying part of your work? Why? You know, that kind of thing. I want, for the whole diary, yeah. 150 to 250 words. Yeah, that's not a lot. It sounds like a lot of words, but it's not. Excluding what's here. Because this is probably about 150 to 200 words right here. No, not compared to essays. And everything you write, you're going to use, you know, with the other assignments. Any other questions? I can't believe I don't have any more questions. I had an awesome time in Las Vegas, by the way. Okay. Yes, I will post the session from last week. No, I don't have a different number. That's the only one. Did you text me or? Because I usually respond to a text pretty quick. Of course, if you can message me, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. You can if you click right here, I think you can send me a message privately so nobody else sees it. But if I'm sharing my screen, they may see it. So we can talk after this. I will say that when I got back from Las Vegas, I did have a lot to catch up on. So if I'm not ignoring you. I promise you I'm not ignoring you. Or if you want to text me your question right now, Sarah, I'll answer it. I hope if I can answer it. I'll tell you something else that has been taking up my time. It doesn't really have anything to do with you guys, but I teach another class for another school, for Georgia Virtual School. And for one of there's 60 students in this class, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But for one of their assignments, the instructions said, and I didn't realize this, for them to email their instructor and let them know what kind of project they were going to do, what kind of presentation tool they were going to use. And I did not delete that. So I've been getting bombarded with texts and emails about, I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation. I'm doing a Prezi. It's been flooding my phones. But that's no excuse. I should respond to you, Sarah. Of course, you guys know, so has anybody else chatted with me? You guys know that I'm always here, right? So you can always come here. I just got your text. Oh. 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 I'll fix that. Sarah, I'm happy to fix that. Okay. Sarah, I am going to stop sharing my screen and fix your problem right now, because I'm getting old and I have learned that if I don't do things right away, then somehow they just don't get done. All right, Sarah, all is right with the world. Okay. All right, guys, it's 7:30. I certainly don't want to keep you any longer than I have to. If you guys don't have any more questions for me, then you are free to go. You're welcome, Sarah. Bye, Tucker. See you next week.